I've had this video idea kicking around for some time, and since it's been over 4 years since I released the first of very few classic Mega Man videos on the channel, I guess this is the perfect time to reflect on those original 3 games I looked at that kicked off a new direction for the channel. I basically swapped out one blue character for another, so yeah. This was originally going to be a re-review of sorts, but as I revisited the NES titles, I didn't have as much interest in that, and there wasn't too much that I could add to the originals without repeating myself. Maybe when I finish covering all the classic titles, I'll consider working on a better review of Mega Man's 1, 2, and 3, because looking back at it, the videos were a little too rough around the edges. Anyway, today's video is just going to be looking at some of the games in a more casual way as a significantly more experienced Mega Man player. Aside from that, I'm convinced these 3 games have become new inductees into a group of games I'll be playing forever, whether I like it or not. Anyway, I've taken up too much time with this intro, so let's talk Mega Man. Oh, and like, sub, hype, and all that stuff. Let's go. There are a few things that I cringe at when it comes to my original videos. The least impactful ones have to be the uncensored profanity, which is not the biggest thing in the world. It's just how I've made videos for years, and this was the only scripted video where I intentionally kept it unfiltered. I get that it's not a big problem for a lot of people, but it's just not my style. Anyway, let's just move on from that. The other one I could add are the silly US manual and box art bits that have been played out to the point of just being an eye roll anytime you hear somebody talk about it. But if you want to see a cool interpretation of bad box art Mega Man, check out the link in the description. There's this really cool piece of art done by Egoraptor, and honestly, this is very cool. I really wish we had a bad box art Mega Man that looked like this. The other one that stuck out with me even more has to be the numerous errors in the video. Mostly the completely butchered way that I said Maname Matsume's name. This is the composer of the original Mega Man game on NES and Famicom. Yeah, I still can't get over the fact that I did that. So there you go. I'm gonna go game by game with this one to avoid bouncing around from one game to another. Yeah, I still can't really get into Mega Man 1. There's just something to the movement in the game that just feels off for me to truly enjoy. He has a bit of a delayed start before going full speed, and he moves a bit further when coming to a stop. One more thing from the original video is that I didn't really go out of my way to use sub-weapons aside from the rolling cutter. At first I thought experimenting with other weapons would be the way to go, but for the most part, the Buster got the job done. This is because some of the weapons are situational, which is the case with a lot of games, but this one more than others. The Super Arm requires the players to be near blocks to use, so there isn't much use for them unless it's at specific points in the game, mostly bosses. Hyper Bombs don't really have as much use because the fuse takes a little too long to go off. I'd rather use my Buster, or freeze them, or go over them with a Magnet Beam. The Ice Slasher is another situational one, though it becomes very important because freezing a trouble enemy does help out. Yes, I can use it to freeze the flames in Fireman stage and in Wily stage 1, and I'll do it from time to time. Most times I end up taking the damage because I'm stubborn and I swear I could squeeze through and make that jump. Aside from that, the Firestorm, the Rolling Cutter, and the Thunder Beam are fantastic weapons that get regular use when I revisit the game. Firestorm is probably the weakest of the 3 great weapons because the flame circling around Mega Man does require enemies to get a little too close for comfort, and some of them explode, so it's not ideal. But there is great use for it. Level design is something I adjusted to, yes, even in Iceman stage, and I believe that was the one I hated because of the ice physics and the footholders that guarantee that I will not play through this without using the Magnet Beam. My thoughts have not changed much on it. For the most part, everything else is fine enough. I guess the lower ceiling bits can get a little annoying when I bonk on it, rather than making the jump that I'm going for. The other thing that has changed, for me, have to be the bosses. I should have kept the gameplay I recorded 4 years ago to see my strategy, or lack of strategy, for the Robot Masters and Wily's Castle. From the brief clips that I have, yeah, those fights were brutal, but then again, I was also demonstrating how some were not viable with the Mega Buster only, if you're not dedicating an unreasonable amount of time towards a self-imposed challenge. Then again, I did go without defeating smaller enemies, so that could be an interesting idea, but I wouldn't hold your breath. I'm just not interested in Buster only on the final level. Fireman is the only Robot Master that's kind of make or break when it comes to that level, though I did see a video from Mike Matei that shows a more reliable way of fighting him by waiting for the robot to turn its back before attacking. Normally I just shoot him quickly and try to take as little damage as possible. It's a war of attrition. But that's not as helpful when there are 3 more bosses that follow him. By the way, great advice on the copy robot.
Use Mega Man to shoot Mega Man to kill Mega Man.
That's another boss that could go either way, though I've been more consistent as of late. Sometimes I'll use the Firestorm to get lucky, or just fire at him with the Mega Buster, and as long as he shoots while airborne, I'm good. Gusman is one where I can either easily time the jumps, or I just miss them every single time and I'm stunned. There's no in-between. There is something I wanted to mention about Wily's Castle, and I know this might annoy some fans. Why is it that the first game sprinkled Robot Masters throughout the Wily stages, but then everything else we got afterwards was the boss rush? When I replayed Mega Man 1 recently, I found it to be a little more tolerable than going through an 8-boss gauntlet. I guess the only credit I could give the boss rush is that your health is refilled a bit. But still, even in the first Mega Man X game, it felt kinda cool storming through the final few levels and stopping for a bit to have a rematch. I just don't get it. One final thing about the Wily stages, and that's the Yellow Devil. And any real threatening boss for that matter. But I'll keep it to the creature that says Boomo. The pause trick has been the solution for players unfamiliar with bosses, and it does a great job of deleting them. I don't know if it's the many rematches I've had with it, or the DLC in Sonic Racing Crossworlds, but I've become more consistent with this pattern, so I don't really need the pause trick anymore. As long as I have enough Thunder Beams, because I think if I go through it with just a Buster only, I'm gonna go insane with how often I'm doing this stupid pattern. And I've got nowhere else to mention this, but you know that glitch where you can get the final hit on the Wily machine and take damage at the same time to then be sent through a door to a glitch room? Well, I never knew about that. And that's pretty much all I had to say for Mega Man 1. I don't dislike the game as much as I did 4 years ago, but I still find it difficult to have the motivation to return to this game, and I'm just kidding. I literally played a revamped ROM hack and a PSP remake recently. It's not one I would recommend to new players, but the sequel is, so let's talk about it. I have a lot less to say about this than I thought, but I do remember a comment that I received on the original video, and it had to do with the difficulty options in the Legacy Collection. This is something where I need to clear something up because I did not think so many people were going to misinterpret what I said, but it was also on me as well. I didn't really explain it a little further. I was referring to Rockman 2, not Mega Man 2. Pretty much when you select Mega Man 2 in the Legacy Collection, it'll have the difficulty options that were present in the North American version, but if you switch it to Rockman 2, you only have the Japanese difficult mode, which was the only mode in the game. I apologize for the confusion, that's on me. Normal mode is basically the Metal Blades mode, as it's still the undisputed king of Robot Master weapons. So you're telling me I can go through the game with something that melts the majority of enemies and the bosses, and I'm supposed to use something else? You gotta be crazy. But with that part addressed, let's get into the difficult playthrough, which is one worth mentioning because it did push me to experiment with other weapons because the Metal Blades did less damage, and it took up more ammo to use. So spamming it was not gonna happen. But that didn't mean that it was difficult by any means. There were plenty of areas where all I had to do was use the Leaf Shield to farm for health or some weapon energy. If you know the game well enough from playing normal mode, this should be a breeze. Well, except for one boss. I did learn that if you run out of energy or die fighting the Boo Beam trap boss, as long as you don't get a game over, the breakable walls should still be there when you return, so beating it is inevitable, unless you get a game over. As for the rest of the things I've said about Mega Man 2, it still holds true. It's still a very easy game, it's very approachable because people have talked about it and played it and shown it off so much that you're bound to know something about the game if you've never played it before. When the game isn't testing me for epilepsy or something, it's still a good time to go through, despite the fact that I know it like the back of my hand. But who knows, maybe I should attempt that pacifist playthrough. But let's move on to the next game. Mega Man 3 is a game that I said time and time again that I don't really care for. At first it was because I did play the game for the very first time for that video. Technically it was 2 times. I did that with every Mega Man game. I still don't care for the game as a complete package, but I would be lying if I didn't say how much fun some of these stages were to return to. It's the Doc Robot levels that make me dread returning to this game because while it does have a better challenge to it, some stages were a bit rougher with their higher difficulty changes. It's mostly Shadow Man. In the Doc Robot version, the slowdown makes the platforms a nightmare to attempt, and it feels like my input for jumping is eaten up. Really, that's the issue with Mega Man 3. The performance issues that lead to a jump not going through or some other nonsense. An input gets eaten up and I'm punished for it. Sparkman stage has this bit near the end where you're supposed to bait the Bolton and Nuttons to avoid getting volleyball spiked into the abyss. With some well-timed hops, you can make it through without having to do all that, though the risk is much higher. My rate of success is about 50-50. If you're not confident with your jumps, you'll probably want to wait them out or try to bait them out in some way. Everything else is pretty solid and almost has a tolerable rise in difficulty with the Doc Robot versions. Then it goes through an awkward drop. Yeah, the Wily stages are meant to be the final challenges leading up to the battle against Dr. Wily, but in Mega Man 3, none of them are what I would call difficult. The only noticeable increase in difficulty comes from the boss rush due to the nature of boss rushes in general and the performance of the game. This is where my statement about padding comes from. To get to Dr. Wily, I have to battle against 26 bosses excluding Proto Man, and some bosses do not have checkpoints before the battle, meaning that death carries a slightly more annoying penalty of redoing parts of that level. While later games would have the 2 sets of levels to act as the post-Robot Master content, I think 8 Robot Masters and 2 levels per Doc Robot stage might be a little overkill. There is an argument that can be made with the progress you've made with the boss rush, but at this point, it's most likely you're going to know what to use against each Robot Master. Remember when I discussed Mega Man 1 and Mega Man X's approach to rebattling bosses? That would have been perfect. Sure, it's still a lot of game to play, but I think it could have made rematches a little better than just throw players into an 8 transporter level. But as I said earlier, to the game's credit, the health drops do help a bit. The bizarre challenge is what stuck out to me in the game, but if I could wrap this up in a more positive way, the weapon selection is probably better balanced than the other 2 games. Yeah, there are some situational weapons like the needle cannon, the top spin, and the hard knuckle, but the others gave me more than enough to work with to power through levels. Maybe not so much with the spark shock. Look, I get that can freeze enemies, but it's very rare when I actually need to do that. That's the only one I couldn't find much of a good use for aside from fighting Magnet Man. And to kind of pull things back a little bit, it's no secret that I use a wiki as a source to have the correct names for weapons and enemies, but this is the first time I've actually paid attention to the weaknesses outside of what their major weakness is. Is every enemy really weak to their own weapon? Okay, I have to find this out. Okay, they do work, but it's not as reliable. It's a backup strategy in the event that you run out of energy for its actual weakness. Aside from that, there was something I wanted to bring up, and it's the Gamma Fight. I was told to use Search Snake on Phase 2, but there are two issues with it. One, I'm more than likely to get hit by a projectile, fall off, or get hit by the fist because it takes 5 hits to take it down. And two, I'm stubborn. The moment I discovered Topspin's real purpose, it's what I go to all the time. Sorry, but not sorry, Mega Man 3 fans. And I think that'll just about do it. I'll be honest, I actually thought I had a lot more to say about Mega Man 3, but it was the first title that got me to speak up more. And aside from addressing a few mistakes and going at the games as a more experienced Mega Man player, I struggled to recommend 1 and 3 just because of some of the bizarreness of those titles. But I guess going through the entire series is something worth doing if somebody really wants to appreciate how polished the series can be, especially by the end of the NES era, or when it made its jump to the 16 and 32-bit generations. It's far more playable than a large number of NES titles and has aged much better than some of those. So having 6 titles on one platform in that generation is no easy feat because it's also an easy formula to mess up. I would say something about how good it is to reflect on these because I won't be playing them for a long time. Complete Works, Anniversary Edition, Legacy Collection, the mobile ports. I'm going to be playing Mega Man 1, 2, and 3 for a very long time. I might also have some other releases to look at for fun and not fun. And I swear if Mega Man 1 through 3's remake that Capcom was hinting at in the survey was real, it's going to be an interesting experience. I know it's not the Mega Man Game Boy video that I teased eons ago, or even a proper review for that matter, but I did want to say something about these 3 games, even if it was later than I would have liked. I have plans to fix that, but I've made quite the mess creating a video backlog for myself over the last couple of years. I'm going to start by chipping away at it. So at this point, I want to say thank you for watching. Again, like, sub, hype, all the YouTuber shoutout stuff, and I want to thank my supporters. You can find the Chaos tier, $1 tier members scrolling across the bottom of the screen, but the $5 tier members get a shoutout. They are Dalton Furry and Ultima Jack 417. Thank you for your support. I know it's been pretty crummy to be a subscriber of mine, even worse being a member of mine, and I hope that I can slowly work to make it up to you guys. For everyone else, if you want to check out other stuff that I'm doing, I'm streaming on my Twitch page. You can find the link in the description, as well as the all-new Knuckles Channel 3 and Knuckles, despite it being around since December. Links are in the description. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one, but until then, take care. Bye-bye.